Let's open a Rigetti model. Take a break from Ozempic for a second. Okay, lower my reach. Okay, so what is the opportunity for Rigetti? Okay, this is something that a lot of people have been asking, and I haven't made a model for it for a reason. But let's do that now, just for the lulz. Okay. Thanks, Omar. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, this is going to be a little bit strange, but one of the ways I want to do this is I want to assume that, let's say revenue gets close to doubles every year for a little while. Let's assume that. Let's say margins grow to like 75%. Now this won't happen, but let's assume this happens. And then we'll work backwards to sort of think about how could it actually get there? Okay, so they might earn $1 a share in 2030, maybe. And we'll sort of see how they can get there. I mean, you don't need to do a model for something like this. This is just like pitiful. They haven't had revenue growth in years, but we're going to forecast that they all of a sudden start getting 90% revenue growth. Wouldn't you just get stopped out immediately on that? So the reason I'm interested in this is basically I want to sort of ask what is the NSA budget and what are the groups around the government that would pay for this, because there's no business in scientific computing. Yeah, but Radley's, you have to keep your ego in check, that's for sure. And the market will humble you quite a bit. As somebody who's lost around $1 million in the last 2 weeks, market's humbled me quite a lot. There are a bunch of documents that came out. Technically, the NSA budget is classified, but there were some leaked documents that say it was around 11 billion. So this is mostly, check worked out well, I sold it. Where's it at now? Back down to $1.87. Yeah, we bought it at like $1.60 and got this little bump. And then I said to stay away from it, but some people didn't. Yeah, it's not really clear, Moo, but you know, we know what the FBI and CIA budgets are, so it's not like there's a ton more. So we also know roughly what the compute budget is for NSA, and that's mostly going to be storage. So if we assume that Rigetti gets the entire compute budget of the NSA, which is going to be pretty hard because IonQ wants that too. And all these two small companies, IBM and Google, they also wouldn't mind getting that. So how does it only become Rigetti's? Well,
order partially filled. Order filled.
I don't think so, Quan. This is important. As I lay out in my paper, the main use case for quantum computing is decryption. There is a Chinese equivalent of the NSA, yes, and they have their own Chinese quantum. It's a national look. It is a national security thing. It's not fake, but Rigetti is fake. IonQ is like a long shot distance competitor to Google and IBM and Quantinuum. Quantinuum we don't even talk about. Quantinuum's the real company in this space. They're going to go public. Okay. Again, figuring out what to do when these stocks fall. It's like, do you want to press them? And if you get a snapback rally, you really get fucked. Okay, so let's argue that 20% of this is compute. Okay, so this is the NSA budget. So storage is a big chunk of that. So let's say they could dedicate half of it to decryption. So that means the entire decryption business of the NSA could be worth $1 billion a year. Now, they're not going to be able to get all of that. But if they got 50% of it, here's where they'd be. They could do consulting and integration as well, theoretically. But again, with IBM and all these other guys, getting 50% of that is a very, very, very best case scenario. So we'll use a 12% discount rate. I'm not really a levels guy. I sort of trade on vibes. Okay, so in this best case scenario, Rigetti is worth $1 billion, which is $4 a share. That's the best case scenario for Rigetti. Okay, that's assuming they get half of the budget of the part of the government that could possibly use their computer. Nobody else could use this computer. That's what you guys don't understand, or what some people don't understand. There is nothing you can do with Shor's algorithm that is useful other than decrypting secrets. That's it. Now, Grover's algorithm is very interesting and theoretically could be used someday. But Grover's has not really been shown to be, that malleable, I guess would be a word to use, that you could actually kind of make it work that well to get anything out of it. Grover's has been, this kind of optimistic dream. And Grover's doesn't really promise massive speed ups anyway. So yeah, traveling salesman doesn't really become a lot better either. So you really don't need these computers. And remember, NVIDIA is not going to quit, right? NVIDIA is not going to say, you know what, we're quitting. Let's see, we're quitting Moore's law. Let's see how well these guys do. They're going to keep going, and as they keep going, the hurdle rate to use these gets higher and higher. And again, you guys saw me right and run a quantum algorithm on IBM's machine, and we got a factorization of 15. I want to factor 88 or 90. What's a better one? 77. Yeah, 77. But writing the circuit's too complicated. Everyone knows that 7 times 11 is 77, and it takes a computer, an x86, like a nanosecond to do that. But I can't get that to run on IBM Quantum. The software is that bad, and the hardware is, well, we don't know how good or bad the hardware is because the software is so bad. I'm glad you agree, Eric. That's interesting. Are you a person in the space? I've been fascinated by quantum my whole life. Quantum simulations are a bit different. We actually have no idea how to run those. So there's no obvious way to say, okay, here's the state of a system and use quantum computing to go simulate it. There is some utility in quantum chemistry and stuff like that where you can gain, the amount of people that are interested in that are really, really, really small. The US is spending a little bit on this through DARPA and some other places, but they generally haven't spent very much. So I'm assuming the decryption budget will be somewhere like $1 billion a year. Quantum ML is, I think, a LARP. And that's maybe partially Grover's. My girl does have expertise in quantum. I would say 7 out of 10. Certainly not a 10 out of 10. Rigetti is going to have all the cash they need. Yeah, the quantum annealers are useless. Annealers have been out for 10 years, and D-Wave has been around for 25 years. D-Wave was the first quantum computing stock I looked at, and it was privately held for the longest time, obviously. D-Wave almost went bankrupt. D-Wave needed to be recapped. Um, Now, there could be applications that are interesting, but the problem is that one of the risks is in that discount rate. That 12% is very generous. The discount rate should be 25 or 30%, in which case you can imagine what the stock price would be. Would not be so good. So the issue with quantum isn't so much that this isn't a good idea or there won't be new applications down the road. The issue is, who are the semiconductor competitors in 1970? You can't tell me. If you ask people in 5 or 10 years who were the first social media companies, they wouldn't be able to tell you either. In fact, you probably can't tell me. There's some really esoteric ones you may not have heard of, unless you read Steve Levy's book on Facebook. So, basically you just don't know when these machines will be out or when they'll be useful. LibGen. You like QSI? Nice. Solid pick. Is that a quantum company or it just has quantum in the name? Entanglement? Superposition? Solid pick. Let's see how it goes for him. Protein sequencing, that's a good idea. How do you do that? Scan each amino acid? How the fuck does that work?